Good afternoon. I'm Brian Winkeler, founder and principal partner of Robot House. We're a 4-person creative shop in Oklahoma City, and we specialize in brand development and product packaging design. We've got years of experience working with craft brewers, and as well as some recent brands in the cannabis industry. And this year we started working with the Nestle Corporation on some of their brands, including Tombstone Pizza and DiGiorno. So I want to thank Andrew and the craft beer professionals for this opportunity to share a bit of insight we've gained about craft beer branding through this presentation called Keeping It Fresh, How to Tell If Your Branding is Past Its Expiration Date. So we're Robot House, we're in our 19th year of existence, and I'm in my 30th year of branding in my career in branding and advertising. Some agencies have a very specific industry focus. We work with all kinds of businesses locally and across the country, and our only criteria basically is that we don't work with jerks. We have a very specific brand development process we use that helps us build relationships and trust with each client. Just being, in the industry for so many years, work with so many different people, it's really just about working with cool people, and we try to be cool, and we enjoy building things for cool people. That said, we love food and we love beer. So restaurants, bars, breweries, there's really nothing more fun than giving life to the excitement behind brands that people are so passionate about, and brands that you can taste and experience. So this page features some of our other work in beer and bar branding locally in Oklahoma and in the region. So what I'm going to talk about today is COOP Ale Works. We're in our 6th year as agency of record with COOP. And they're the largest craft brewer in the state of Oklahoma. They started in 2009 and steadily grew their presence by building relationships in the community and pretty much just kind of focusing on making great beer. So they didn't really do much in the way of advertising at all. And they used different freelance designers every time they developed a new beer. About 5.5 years ago, 2016, they'd grown large enough that they hired their first marketing director, Sean Mossman, and he brought us on to build creative for their launch in Texas, and basically with the goal of giving their branding the structure and consistency needed for the size of brewery they were becoming. So we quickly kind of found ourselves a little stuck because COOP hadn't ever really done much in the way of creative other than their can designs, and they had a pretty minimal website. So we didn't have a whole lot to work with in terms of graphic standards. Their brand colors were black, white, and red. They didn't really have an established brand font. So in some of the layouts, we used one of the fonts in their logo. And we kept the look pretty straightforward. We made it work, but we kind of felt like things were going to get pretty old pretty quickly and pretty samey if we stayed within these tight parameters. That's the original COOP logo, and that had really become pretty iconic in the years since they had established in 2009. It was loved by the founders of the brewery and was everywhere around town, and stickers, T-shirts, everybody knew COOP. Shirts, hats, glasses, car wraps, just had a lot of brand equity. But as you can see, it's kind of visually complex. There are a lot of small details that look really great up close, but they disappear the smaller it gets. And as you can see in the circle, the early days of social media was when it was first built. So it wasn't really built to work within the constraints of Facebook, sort of where so much of kind of the conversation with customers is. So it wasn't really great from a usability standpoint. And here are some examples of some of their can badge designs, we call them. Different artists worked on different ones, so it's kind of all over the board, from the Alpha Hive, almost sort of a clip art looking, bee, to the really detailed, ornate elevator wheat, the actual photography of DNR, and then F5 is their signature beer. And that's got this very complex tornado illustration in there that's all digital. So everything kind of looked different. There wasn't a whole lot really kind of bringing it all together. And across all of their beer designs, their can designs, the logo and just COOP Ale Works was kind of all over the place. It just varied all across the layouts. So we really needed to establish consistency that felt true to the brand, that it was important for it to be embraced internally as well as with all of their really passionate fans. We couldn't, shake things up too much because of just the expectations of their customer base. So through our process, we kind of had an aha moment. When we had a photographer out at their tap room, we kind of saw this image of all the beers in the refrigerator. We kind of realized the brand, the logo is black, white, and red, but the brand actually is kind of all the colors of the rainbow, because they'd really done a great job of building all of these specific flavors, all these specific beers with key signature colors. And so we kind of stepped back and we're like, wait a minute, we kind of have the whole rainbow to work with. So the solution was that solution at least was kind of hiding in plain sight. So we thought we could really open up the color palette for marketing materials just by embracing the colors that were at play. So we kind of built this graphic to sort of show off, hey, here's what you got. And they really loved it. Kind of reminded them of like an old TV test pattern, which dates me a little bit, but that's kind of what was in the heads of Sean and the marketing team. So when they redid their tap room, we used that as an image, and that's actually on the wall of their tap room. Their beers in an old TV set. But we still needed to evolve the logo into something that was going to work better for them. So after a lot of research into how a lot of other breweries had done rebrands, either kind of starting from scratch or taking what they had and really kind of building up from there, we presented a solution. And here's what we presented, and it was almost perfect for them. One caveat was that they have a very specific trademark in terms of the details of the logo as they are articulated on the trademark paperwork. And we had to follow those trademark details very specifically. So we went back and tweaked it a little bit more, and here's basically where we landed with it. So this was what they were looking for. This also was, worked with any legal concerns and all the trademark requirements that we had to follow. So just walking through it, basically we did some small things, like we sharpened up the diamond shape just to kind of give it a crisper look. We tried to make it just the one diamond, but the additional line was on the trademark, so we had to keep that. The anvil, a big part of their logo. Like I said earlier, great detail in there, but the smaller it got, the more plugged up it got with the gradations and the highlights. So we just kind of knocked it back to simple red with black and kind of some dimensional details there, so that again it wouldn't push it too far away. Ale Works, that was pretty big just in terms of the ribbon, making the ribbon bigger, bolder, and using a new, easier to read font for that. And then kind of the biggest change is the font itself. So as you can see, the old font, the old COOP, it was a serif font, so it's got the little kind of arms and feet, on it. It's got this sort of double drop shadow in there. Looks great, again, at that size, but really hard when it gets smaller. When it gets bigger, it just doesn't hold the same power So we simplified it to a nice, bold sans serif font that could then have really nice presence, especially from far away. Works really well big and really well small. So it's responsive is kind of what we call it in reference to like responsive websites that shrink down for phones. So our sign of a successful logo is, does it work on a billboard? Does it work on a phone? Does it work the size of a dime? We also, since one of our big things, it's not just the design, it's also the storytelling. We built a new brand messaging for COOP, because we're all about really kind of telling fresh brand stories. And that's kind of my specialty within our group at Robot House. COOP comes from co-op. That's what the origin of the brewery. And so to kind of turn that into a verb, meaning basically to bring people together for the love of beer, we felt worked really well for their message and who they are. Because again, as you all know, it's the community itself is just so passionate, just about making good beer, and we really understood that as brand storytellers and as fans of beer. So we also played around with how it could look on a bunch of different swag and wearables, and the COOP store is always got a lot of activity going on. Again, it's a nice kind of iconic brand for the local market, for the state as well as the region. So from there, we put together their first graphic standards guide. We're responsible for a majority of the creative, but they do all their social media in-house. They send brand elements out far and wide for sponsorships and things like that. So it was really important for them, and they've grown so much in the years. They just this year hired a new marketing director, Marianne Karam, and she's got a whole new marketing team. So for them to have these resources on hand for reference, as well as to send out to anybody who's going to be using the logo in anything, just really helps maintain that just the consistency and the making sure that people aren't doing things with the logo that they shouldn't be, which unfortunately happens far too often. So we've been able to maintain this nice consistency. And one of the great things is that not long after we made all these changes, we had changed the liquor laws in Oklahoma through a vote. We used to have pretty archaic liquor laws, so COOP could only sell their beer warm at liquor stores, and so we kind of got caught up to the rest of the nation pretty much. And so now it's available in grocery stores and club stores, all across the state, which especially last year, the beginning of pandemic, when all the bars and restaurants shut down, that was really key for them, that they had this presence in, available to consumers. Because one thing that we've learned is that craft beer definitely, was a popular item for during the pandemic. So we've been able, over the years since we did this brand refresh, we've created a consistency. We still have a lot of flexibility in terms of the looks of everything, but everything's always following the guidelines. COOP Ale Works always makes sense in terms of how it's used, and so we've been able to really help infuse the brand with these images that all have their own personality, but all still tie in together nicely. So that's been a really great benefit for them as they've grown. So I'll wrap this up with 4 questions to consider if your craft beer brand is in need of a refresh. First one is, are your brand visuals responsive? Like I said, do they work at any size? If you enlarge your logo the size of a billboard, is it still big and clear, or do the details start to fall apart? When you reduce it down to the size of a dime, is everything still readable, or does it get all plugged up? Does it fit well as your social profile image? Is your branding consistent across your line? Some brands have like a really intentionally chaotic aesthetic, which is really cool if it works and if it's really, you know, again, intentional. But that's really the main word here. Does your brand include elements that are arbitrarily inconsistent because different designers worked on different layouts? And do you have established graphic standards, both for internal usage as well as externally? How strong is your current brand equity with your passionate fans? Is your brand look so ingrained in the lives of your most enthusiastic customers that they feel a bit abandoned if you took it in a completely different direction? One benefit of our COOP brand refresh is that there's a noticeable difference when the old and new logos are side by side, like I had them earlier. But it wasn't so drastic that it was immediately noticeable. So COOP was able to really smoothly phase out the original packaging and merchandise while implementing the refresh look, because, you know, you put a lot of money into that stuff. There's no reason to not use it. So if you can, you know, smoothly transition, that's always the best case scenario. And then finally, how up to date is the branding of other local breweries? You know, we've learned, you know, through these relationships that in the world of craft beer, you know, we don't talk about other breweries as competition. You know, everybody's kind of, you know, part of the, you know, the brotherhood, sisterhood of craft brewing. But surely you have your eye on your contemporaries, and, you know, have any of them done any, you know, brand rebranding or brand refreshing? Are your brand visuals as strong or stronger than theirs? How do they stack up? You know, I think that's something for everybody to always be aware of in any industry, but especially in something as competitive as craft beer. So that's it for Keeping It Fresh. You can see examples of our craft beer branding work alongside our other branding and packaging design clients at robot.house. And I'm Brian Winkeler at brian@robot.house. And I want to, again, thank craft beer professionals for this opportunity, and enjoy the rest of your conference. Thanks a lot.